No DQ Galaxy. It's time for the NoDQ.com live recap of Monday Night Raw for Monday, January 31st, 2021. We are coming off the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and I think I said 2021. I meant 2022. It's not going to be until like July or August when I stop saying 2021, so bear with me on that one. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate your viewership and support. We have a lot to talk about here as we are now officially on the road to WrestleMania 38. Hard to believe that there have been 38, well, going to be 38 WrestleManias. We started off Raw with a recap from the Royal Rumble, showing off the highlights and whatnot. We then had WWE official Adam Pearce in the ring, and he talked about the Elimination Chamber and how there will be a WWE Championship match in the Chamber. Bobby Lashley will defend his title. This led to Lashley interrupting. MVP was there, very upset that Adam Pearce made this match. It's not fair to the champion. I guess Bobby Lashley's back to being a heel again. He was a face for a couple weeks, but now it feels like he's a heel again. And he had this very, very interesting outfit that he was wearing. I feel like maybe he broke into Seth Rollins' house and took one of his outfits. Lashley said that he was supposed to be out celebrating, and he talked about how he knew he was better than Lesnar. Lesnar then arrived, and Brock Lesnar was not wearing his farming outfits like he's been wearing. He actually had his ring gear on, which is very rare on Monday nights to see Lesnar with his ring gear. Lesnar came into the ring and told MVP to shut up or he would shove MVP's cane up his ass. Talked about how the only reason Bobby Lashley won at the Royal Rumble was because of Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Lesnar said he's not mad at Bobby Lashley, though. He's mad at Reigns and Heyman, and said that at WrestleMania 38, he will not be picking Bobby Lashley, but instead, he will, in fact, be facing Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. It is official. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, part 57 or whatever it is at WrestleMania. That is set now. But Lesnar said it could end up being champion versus champion because he was challenging Lashley for the WWE title right there in Cincinnati on Monday Night Raw. Of course, Lashley declined this match, and MVP was like trying to calm down Lashley. Lesnar called Lashley chicken shit, which they bleeped out. I remember a year ago, or around a year ago, Lashley said shit and it was not censored, but here, chicken shit was censored by Lesnar. And then Lashley left. Adam Pearce, however, decided that Brock Lesnar would be added to the Elimination Chamber match. Officially the first challenger announced for the Elimination Chamber match, that being Brock Lesnar. Pretty good opening segment here, and I like how Brock Lesnar said that Lashley was wearing a $5 suit. That was a fun line. It was an interesting suit. I mean, definitely looked like something out of Seth Rollins' closet, but it was interesting. We then had our first match of the evening, Rhea Ripley versus Nikki ASH. Rhea Ripley was dominating. Nikki had to use the ring apron, the old Fit Finlay trick, to get the upper hand. Nikki ended up hitting a tornado DDT, but then missed a crossbody. She went for a neck breaker. However, Rhea was able to counter that and picked up the win with the Riptide. Now, is this the end of the feud? Or are they going to do like 3 or 4 rematches? Are they going to do 50-50 booking? I don't know. I don't really care. I wish we would move on from this. Change up Nikki ASH's gimmick if you're going to keep the feud going, but do something. Like if they just keep having a bunch of matches, it's going to get very boring very quickly. Match was all right, though. We then had the start of the scooter race between Chad Gable and Matt Riddle. 50 laps around the arena. And this took them about an hour and a half or so to complete the 50 laps around the arena. I'm not sure how many minutes that is per lap, but I guess it took a very long time to go around the arena. And R-Truth was there to wave the flag to start the race. So there you go. We had another therapy session with Alexa Bliss. She had the doll. She was given the doll, actually, I should say, by the therapist. And she was very happy to see the doll. And this was part 1 where the therapist had Lily there, and Alexa Bliss was very excited to see Lily. And there was more on this later, which we'll get to then. Miz had a match with Dominic Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was at ringside to cheer on his son. And Miz was getting distracted by Rey Mysterio. He ended up shoving Rey down to the ground, and then he got back in the ring. Rey was over by the apron, but he was just trying to cheer on Dominic, and Miz decided to kind of pull an Eddie Guerrero trick where he pretended that Rey Mysterio tripped him, and Rey, in fact, did not trip Miz. Referee was telling Rey that he had to leave, and as the referee was distracted and Dominic was distracted, Miz hit the skull-crushing finale and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. Miz outsmarted the Mysterios. I mean, this was fine. Miz gets a little bit of a rebound after the loss at the Royal Rumble. Backstage, we had Tamina chasing Dana Brooke, trying to win the 24/7 title, this never-ending storyline. And they were interrupting the scooter race. Riddle ended up riding into Omos and complimented Omos and then went back to his race. Okay, then. Just, I guess, a way to get Omos on the show. Speaking of shows, we had the Kevin Owens show with special guest Seth freaking Rollins. And there was a line about Cincinnati being the hottest city in the country because the Bengals are in the Super Bowl. Owens was very upset about what Roman Reigns did at the Royal Rumble, attacking Rollins with the steel chair, purposely getting DQ'd. And Owens said that Rollins is the universal champion of his heart. Rollins talked about how he was going to be in the Elimination Chamber, and Owens was very happy for him, although you could kind of sense that Owens was upset that he had to do a qualifying match and Rollins could just declare himself for the match. But I guess technically, because Rollins has a win over the Universal Champion, he should get put in the match. But Owens wanted to get automatically put into the match, and he said that Rollins should complain or threaten to be ejected from the match. Owens was trying to do something here to get out of being in a match to qualify, but then Austin Theory showed up, Owens' opponent, and we had the match. Owens was dominating it for a good portion. Theory managed to escape to the outside, but Owens went after him, hit the cannonball on the outside, and Theory was able to use the steel steps to his advantage. He drove Owens back first into the steps, which was pretty brutal. He kept trying to put Owens away with pinfall attempts. Owens came back, hit a swanton, but Theory kicked out of that. And then Owens hit his top rope brainbuster, but Theory was able to get his foot on the rope, and then they were both on the outside. Owens was getting back into the ring, and Theory kicked the middle rope, kind of like a low blow, and then hit the ATL to pick up what I guess you could say was an upset victory over the former Universal Champion. Austin Theory advances to the Elimination Chamber match. Pretty good match here, by the way. I did enjoy it. And to respond to Uthman, I'm not sure. I don't know if he has or not. I do not recall if he was in the Greatest Royal Rumble. Where's Michael Wayne? Michael Wayne would know the answer to that one. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. I appreciate it. He says, sometimes you have to go back to reminisce of Chase Ghosts. Some say you can't go back. You can. You just have to do it right. You just have to do it in a Lincoln. I have no idea what that's a reference to. Definitely not a Beatles song, so I'm going to move on here. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Michael Wayne says that Owens was there in 2018. I feel like with 50 men in that Greatest Royal Rumble, or whatever the number was, Owens would have had to have been there just because they needed the bodies. That did not sound right. Saudi Arabia. Whoops. My apologies for that line. That was not nice. Anyways, let's move on here promptly. We had the Street Profits backstage, and they were given drinks out to Matt Riddle to boost his energy, but they would not give Chad Gable a drink. But Otis had a drink. However, it was steak sauce, and Chad Gable did not appreciate that. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, looks like somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Well, that would be a lot of us, Psycho Jet Black, but thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. We had Angelo Dawkins versus Dolph Ziggler. No Robert Roode on this show, but Montez Ford was out there with Dawkins. Dawkins was billed from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I thought he was going to lose. Like, when do hometown guys ever win? In WWE, at least. Well, Dawkins picked up the win. Ziggler almost won right off the bat, but Dawkins was able to make a comeback after a while and picked up the victory. There you go. Angelo Dawkins wins in his hometown. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you guys. Then we had the end of the scooter race. You had R-Truth being asked who would win. R-Truth responded by saying the Bengals. Ha, ha, ha. They both came down the ramp stage area, and Gable tripped. Riddle was about to win, but then Otis came out of nowhere, bum rushed Riddle before Riddle could cross the finish line. Gable was able to get back up on the scooter and pick up the victory. Gable cut this victory promo, said he's never cheated at anything in his life, and Riddle made the mistake of driving his scooter right into Otis. And then Otis was put into a match with Matt Riddle. Adam Pearce announced that it would be a chamber qualifying match. The stakes were raised. Mr. Anderson with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, surprise no Randy Orton on Raw either. Yeah, Randy Orton was nowhere to be seen in this segment. Otis was dominating it. Otis hit a pounce, period. He was just dominating Riddle, bum rushing him and just shoulder tackling him. Riddle somehow made a comeback. He hit a floating bro, and he was going to hit the RKO, but Otis escaped it. Riddle then came off the top with another floating bro and turned it into a pinfall, scored the 1-2-3 victory over Otis. They also called that an upset victory. A couple of upset victories on this show. And yeah, Matt Riddle is now in the Elimination Chamber match, which is very interesting. There's a report that Matt Riddle was originally going to win the Royal Rumble. I'm not sure if I buy that, but Riddle is a guy that is very over with the fans, and Riddle versus Randy Orton for the WWE title at WrestleMania. Riddle as a heel would be pretty cool, but yeah, Riddle versus Orton for the WWE title would be an interesting match. Not sure if that's where they're going, but this chamber match is interesting. That they're putting all these guys in this match, including Lesnar, and they're teasing the idea that maybe Lesnar wins the title back, maybe Riddle wins it. Guess we'll have to wait and see. But they got me intrigued, I will say that. Yeah, I'm not sure if I buy the Riddle rumor or not. It seems very random. Like, I feel Randy Orton would have been a more likely candidate because of the St. Louis connection. But you know what? Riddle winning, I would have been fine with it. You know, build up some new stars and give Riddle a big win. Anyways, Hab Connell sent in another $5 super chat. Says, seriously, Aaron, look up the Lincoln commercial, Matthew McConaughey. And also, they've changed plans. No way Riddle is beating Lesnar or Lashley. Yeah, well, hey, we get Riddle and Lesnar in the same match. They technically were in the Royal Rumble match, but now we're going to see them in the Chamber match. That's pretty cool, right? Moving on here, we had Bianca Belair versus Carmella. Carmella put her mask on. She was stalling for time. Bianca teased using her hair, and Carmella cowered away and then got shoved down. Carmella ended up slapping Bianca. Carmella started to run away. She got back in the ring. Bianca got in the ring, and Carmella took advantage. Carmella worked over Bianca for a while, but then Bianca made a comeback, hit the KOD, picked up the victory. Probably just a way to build up Bianca Belair after not winning at the Royal Rumble. That's really all it was. Just a standard TV match here. Not much to say about it. Axel sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you very much for that, Axel. I appreciate it. Axel says, wouldn't it be cool if Riddle wins the title, then the next night Orton gives him the thumbs up, then the thumbs down turns on him like Triple H did to Orton in Evolution? That would be interesting, but to me, I would rather see Riddle as the heel in the feud, if that's where they're going eventually, whether it's WrestleMania or later this year. I just feel like Randy Orton going heel again, we've seen it so many times. And I know Riddle's popular as a babyface, but I kind of want to see the comedy gimmick dropped. And I think Riddle as a heel, you know, turning the tides where Randy Orton is the legend and Matt Riddle is the new legend killer. And suddenly Randy Orton is in that position where he's got to try to fight for his career as the young lion's trying to take him down. I just think that would be a more compelling story, in my opinion. And you can have people take Riddle seriously instead of doing the whole comedy stoner gimmick. You know, they've been doing this now for almost, well, over 2 years if you count NXT, but yeah, almost 2 years now on the main roster where Riddle's been doing this, you know, comedic stoner babyface character. And, you know, it'd be nice to change things up. If you're going to take Riddle to the next level, I think you got to have Riddle be the one to turn. Like Randy Orton turning it just, we've seen that story told many times. We had another therapist session with Alexa Bliss. She talked about how much she missed Lily, but then the therapist revealed that the Lily doll that was there in the room was actually a replica from the WWE shop website. And he allowed Alexa to hold the doll so she could see for herself, and well, she started crying. And that was the final segment of the evening for Alexa Bliss. A lot of people think that this is slowly leading to her going back to her old persona. People have noticed like her attire seems a little bit more normal with each week of the therapy sessions. I suppose we'll see if she ends up going back to a normal persona or if it's all a swerve. Time will tell. And then backstage, we had Chad Gable announcing that next week there will be a quiz bowl between RK-Bro and Alpha Academy. And the RK-Bro, they will lose like the Bengals will lose at the Super Bowl, said Chad Gable. Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, if Riddle turns heel, would you give him new music? Oh, man, that's a tough one because I feel like his music is very babyface-like, but I fear whatever new music they would give him would be really generic. I'm scared for it to be changed. So I suppose I would lean towards a no and hope that the music won't lead to people continuing to cheer him anyways. Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, people forget Riddle is a legit MMA badass. They just book him like a goofball pothead. He can legit change, and he is a badass if they let him rather he go heel. I agree with you. I think Riddle could definitely pull off the heel persona. He can do it. I mean, he can do whatever they need him to do, but I think, like I said earlier, in order to get him to that next level, you got to give him a more serious attitude. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, who will be Alexa Bliss's opponent for WrestleMania? Who even knows if she's going to have a match at this point? I guess we got to see where this goes, but if she's in any kind of a match, it'll probably be some kind of tag match or something. Maybe she reunites with Nikki. They can form a new heel tag team, and maybe they can each drop their superhero / supernatural gimmicks and create something new. That might be interesting. Oofman Entertainment sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Oof. He says, will we get the Raw Bowl in 2 weeks? Probably not. I mean, I don't think we've gotten a Raw Bowl since 1996. If we get a Raw Bowl, then that's really a sign that they have no good ideas, because that seems like a bottom of the barrel thing to bring back to try and boost up numbers. We had our last qualifying match of the evening, which was AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio. A handshake between the two of them, face versus face match. The crowd was not really into this match, unfortunately, but it was a really good match for a TV match. Back and forth here, both of them taking turns with offense. Rey missed a 619, and then Styles went for the phenomenal forearm, but Rey was able to move away, and then they were both on the top rope, and Styles attempted an avalanche Styles clash, but that did not work out. And then Styles got knocked into the ropes in the 619 position. Rey hit it, went for the frog splash, but he missed, and then Styles was able to hit the Styles clash, and he picked up the victory. So AJ Styles is your sixth and final participant in the Elimination Chamber. Like I said, very good match. It's unfortunate that the crowd was kind of flat for this, but yeah, they were getting pretty quiet by the end here. And we had our final segment of the evening, which was the return to Monday Night Raw of Ronda Rousey. And she talked about how she has to think about which title to take. Is it going to be Charlotte's title, or is it going to be Rebecca's title? She said she has unfinished business with both of them, and then had this line where she said that it doesn't matter because the biggest fight is with her. And WWE did this really obvious piped in cheering or oohing as like a reaction to that. It was so fake sounding. The problem was it was very delayed too. So it's like somebody was like, oh, I got to press the button for the crowd noise. It sounded so bad. And yeah, the crowd was really quiet for Ronda Rousey's promo. Like they weren't even booing or cheering. They just seemed kind of indifferent. Then we had Becky Lynch show up, and she tried to save this segment. She said that She's the baddest big time bitch in WWE. Actually, I think Ronda said that line. Becky called Ronda a weirdo. That was her old go-to word back in the day. And she said she wasn't sure or not if Ronda would be back. She said Ronda versus Becky is the biggest match possible. Charlotte Flair is just an appetizer. Becky's the main course. And she wanted an answer. Ronda's answer was she took down Becky Lynch and she grabbed her arm and said that Becky will get the answer on Friday's SmackDown. Ronda then walked out and Becky started talking trash. Then we had Lita arrive. Yes, Lita on Monday Night Raw. Crowd was more into Lita than they were Ronda Rousey. There was actually a Lita chant here at the end. There was no Ronda chant or welcome back or anything for Ronda Rousey. WWE had to pipe in cheers for Ronda. Crowd was legitimately happy to see Lita. And Lita said that she respects Becky Lynch being a fighting champion, and Becky was happy with that compliment, but then realized what Lita was up to here. And Lita issued a challenge for Elimination Chamber. Becky said no. And then Lita questioned if Becky was scared. And that's when Becky agreed to the championship match at Elimination Chamber. So this definitely picked up at the end here. The Ronda part was pretty flat, but when Lita came out, it got interesting. And yeah, they're doing this at Elimination Chamber instead of WrestleMania. I mean, this would be a pretty solid WrestleMania match, in my opinion. Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. I appreciate it. He says, if it wasn't for Lesnar being in the chamber, it would be legit hard to predict. Too bad he is the obvious winner. I would love Riddle, Rollins, or AJ to win. Well, see, it's really interesting to me because I felt like the whole deal at the Royal Rumble was to get the WWE title off of Brock Lesnar, and they were not going to do a title versus title match. And are they really going to switch the title again before WrestleMania and actually do the title versus title match? It's just really weird to me. And it would be an odd decision for Brock Lesnar to win this. But yeah, he's in it. And if he doesn't win, that means he has to lose, right? Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely something we have to look at and see how things play out over the next several weeks. Mr. Anderson sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It says, would give this Raw a rating of a D-. Ouch. Says, nothing memorable for me, was very bland. Only thing I suggest watching is the Brock and Bob the Lash segment. Well, I don't think Raw was a bad show at all. I actually thought it was pretty good. We had matches that had something on the line, qualifying matches for the chamber, and the matches were good. Riddle versus Otis was good. Riddle was selling great for Otis. AJ versus Ray was a good match. Austin Theory versus Owens was a good match. I mean, the wrestling was really solid. You set up Elimination Chamber with the chamber match, and you set up the women's title match. So you had some storyline progression here. You had some fun comedy stuff with the scooter race, and Chad Gable was entertaining. I thought Raw was a good show. I did not think it was a bad show by any means. Marquand 1976 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, do you think Ronda versus Charlotte might get the Lesnar-Roman 2018 reaction from the crowd? Hard to say. Doing WrestleMania 2 nights is beneficial because it's less likely that the crowd will burn out. Like when it's a 7 or 8 hour show, then, the crowd's going to be restless and tired, and it would be more likely. So that might be a positive, that the shows are shorter. But yeah, it could still happen. I suppose if the buildup is good, the crowd will be into it. But if the buildup is crap, then the fans might not react the way WWE wants them to react. We might have some more crowd sweetening or whatever. I would recommend this Raw. It wasn't a great Raw, but it was pretty solid in my opinion, especially by current Raw standards. Hap Connell with a $5 super chat says, is it true if Ray had not gotten injured in 2006 and been put out a year, it would have been Ray versus Batista at WrestleMania 23? I do not remember. I mean, that is so far back. I'm not sure what they had planned for that year's WrestleMania. I could have sworn it was something else, or maybe I was thinking Triple H was going to be involved somehow, and he obviously got hurt and was taken out of the equation. But yeah, I think that with Undertaker there were always big plans for him, so I'm not sure if that was something that they were going to do. I feel like once Ray lost the title, that was the end of his world title push. Although he did get in the world title picture a little bit more a couple years after that. Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat says, would rather have had Edge in a chamber spot. Well, maybe Edge wants to just take a little bit of time off here and then come back when it's time to do his WrestleMania build-up. Maybe he just wanted a little bit of a break. I don't mind him not being in the match. I think it's a pretty solid lineup, actually. And you get Austin Theory in there, getting a chance to work with Brock Lesnar, perhaps. He'll probably get F5'd and pinned, but hey, gets Austin Theory some time with the bigger stars, gives him that brush with greatness. I do think it's a pretty good lineup for the show. Walter Cruz with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, I thought the Chamber was going to be the winner gets the Raw main event. Didn't think Lesnar was going to defend the title. I thought Seth would win the Chamber and fight Lashley at Mania. Well, Walter, I think what you said makes more sense. I do not understand why they do not have the Chamber match be the number one contenders match. You've already established one title match for WrestleMania. I always felt like the Chamber match should be to determine the challenger for the other title. To me, that's what makes sense. But yeah, they're going in a different direction here, and we'll have to see what they come up with. I mean, it could end up being really good, but Royal Rumble was looking like it was going to be a really great show, and a lot of people did not like how the Rumble turned out, and it's hard to say how things are going to go with the Chamber. I'm intrigued, but wouldn't shock me if the way it's booked, people are going to be unhappy. Maybe they come up with something really creative and people are liking it. Hard to say. But I would give Raw a solid B. I definitely thought it was a good show this week by the current Raw standards. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it very much. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Psycho Jet Black with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Psycho Jet Black. He says, aside from Brock, Roman, and Ronda, Charlotte, it doesn't feel like WWE has anything planned for the rest of the roster and are booking last minute for WrestleMania. Well, you're probably right on that, Psycho Jet Black. I mean, they're thinking they want to have their key matches established, and then everything after that doesn't really matter. They'll just put the card together as they go along here. And that's how it's going to be. I know some people would prefer longer-term build-up for WrestleMania, as would I. Like, I remember, like in 2004, they had 4 or 5 matches that were planned out like 6 months in advance. Unfortunately, those days are long gone. It would be nice, though, but that's not what they're doing. And Hap Connell sent in a $5 super chat, says, how do you feel about Shane McMahon versus Edge at WrestleMania? They have never faced each other, and it would be an Attitude Era throwback. Quite frankly, I have no interest in Shane McMahon wrestling again. I think it's time to call it a career. Maybe Shane McMahon versus Austin Theory. I mean, at least that would make sense with the whole Vince McMahon, Austin Theory storyline, but other than that, like, there's nobody I really want to see Shane in the ring with. And, Shane being on the card just takes away a spot from somebody else who could be in that spot. Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat, thank you for that, says, hope WWE doesn't do Edge and Miz at WrestleMania. Well, I agree with you. The match I want to see is Edge versus AJ Styles. Now, AJ Styles has kind of gone in a babyface direction. Edge versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE title might be interesting too. If Lashley retains, of course. I just want to see something different with Edge. I don't want to see him in another match with The Miz. That's for sure. $5 super chat here from Underground Knight. Not sure how to pronounce that one, but thank you for that. It says, who are 3 possible names that you think could possibly transition from AEW to WWE? This is an easy one. MJF, obviously. The guy is a great promo, and he's really good in the ring, too. Makes obvious sense. Wardlow, big dude, ass kicker. Brian Cage is the third one. Guy who looks the part. And I think Brian Cage is maybe a bit underrated in the ring. He can go. He had a really good match with Adam Page at Double or Nothing, and apparently had a really good match with Will Ospreay a couple weeks ago. I would say those 3 guys would be at the top of my list. And King Alex with a $2 super chat says, watch the Royal Rumble, first time in years. LOL, big mistake. Now, see, I didn't even think the Rumble was a bad show. I thought it was solid. I know it was not what a lot of people wanted, and the men's Rumble match was very predictable and not too eventful. But I did think the Rumble was a good show, and maybe my standards have gone so low. I suppose that's a possibility as well. King Alex with the $2 super chat. Thank you, King Alex. Says, Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy ladder match at Double or Nothing 2022? I think if and when Jeff Hardy goes to AEW, and it's probably a when and not an if, I think Jeff's going to team up with Matt, and we're going to see some tag matches. Maybe Darby Allin and Sting versus the Hardys. That would be interesting, but I feel like the Hardys will be obvious baby faces, and you got to do them versus the Young Bucks for sure. There's a lot of interesting matches. FTR versus the Hardys. I mean, the Hardys are going to get some mileage in AEW for sure. And I know there's all the speculation about Jeff. Did he purposely get himself fired from WWE? Matt doesn't think so. Jeff's test was reportedly negative. He did not test positive for any drugs. So what was the deal? It's still something people are talking about. But either way, I do think we're going to see Jeff Hardy in AEW, and him and Matt will be having some great tag matches over the next year or two. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, WWE should use Edge to put over younger talent. Well, I agree with you on that. Ultimately, that should be the goal with Edge. You want to use him to elevate younger talent. He ended up winning the program with Rollins, which was fine. But yeah, at some point you got to start having Edge putting over the younger talent, kind of like what Mick Foley did with Randy Orton. And eventually you're going to have Orton in that position where Orton's going to be putting over people, and ultimately Riddle should be going over Randy Orton at the end of their storyline. Mr. Anderson with the $2 super chat, thank you for that, says, Drew McIntyre versus Shane at WrestleMania, he has nothing to do. Yeah, Drew McIntyre is back, and I suppose Drew could always do like a SmackDown versus Raw match where they put him in there with somebody from Raw who doesn't have a match. But I really don't have interest in that either. I just don't want to see Shane. Like I said, Austin Theory might be the only match that I'll be like, all right, whatever. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. He says, JoJo was a man who thought he was a loner, but he knew it wouldn't last. JoJo left his home in Tucson, Arizona for some California grass. Thank you for the Beatles song. I appreciate that, Psycho Jet Black. I ain't even going to try to sing it, but I appreciate the comments nonetheless. And on that note, I'm going to call it a night here. Thank you guys again so much. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys will tune in Wednesday night for the Dynamite recap. Going to be a fun show. And then the No DQ review will be back on Thursday. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about the Royal Rumble and all the post happenings. Come by, join the interactive chat room, and subscribe. YouTube.com/AaronRiffNoDQ, especially if you're watching this from Facebook or Twitter. Head over to the No DQ YouTube channel and subscribe. Much appreciated, guys. Take care. Have a great night. And I will see you all next time. Say yes to No DQ.